series here, as we have quite the series about to unfold here on the B stream. It's something that is rife with rivalry, is how I'm going to say it.
Yeah, rivalry is the right word for this one. Two French players, both who've had some clashes in the past, I guess.
Yeah.
And both players looking here to try and get the best result they can in such an important match. I'm really curious how this one's going to go. It is going to be a ZvT as well, which is always a more exciting matchup. It's going to be very action-packed.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. We just had one of those on the mainstream, of course, with Hydra and Bunny. Bunny, unfortunately, having a bit of a difficult time there, that's for sure. But these two players, they've played against each other a lot in the past, obviously. With how they both have manifested themselves in that French scene, they both come along from that. And as you can see here at the moment, we do have our Group B setup with our first games of the day, with Hydra versus Pult, obviously, going to be going on the other stream. And now, of course, we do have FireCake versus MarineLorD. And MarineLorD is one of those guys that we see a lot of in the European scene, because he's establishing himself as one of the very best right now. And as a Terran, that's very difficult to do.
Absolutely. He's still on the rise, and he's a player where this is, I think, sort of a breakout performance so far this season. He did eliminate Violet in the round of 32, and I think he's looking to cement that performance here and really try to push forward. But FireCake, I think, has kind of risen to prominence a little bit earlier in the year. Already in Season 1, had a very good showing. And I think in the fans' eyes, in terms of results, especially inside France, FireCake has tended to, in WCS especially, FireCake has got the better of him, I think, more often. He's kind of had that more out-there personality. And I think he'd be looking as the favorite in this matchup.
Yeah, and there he is. It is MarineLorD at the moment, who has... I think one thing, looking at his round of 32 results, everyone's kind of expecting him to propel himself forward even more. But with the rivalry that you see here between the players such as MarineLorD and FireCake, is this a tough challenge here for MarineLorD, do you think?
I think it really is. FireCake's such an odd player, and MarineLorD's been improving. He's been getting his skills up there, but he hasn't, necessarily... I'm not sure if he has the exact right tools to deal with FireCake, because FireCake's such a special player. He's so unique in how he plays. Something we have seen from MarineLorD quite a bit recently is some mech styles of play.
Yeah.
He might pull that out, as we have seen FireCake struggling with that since the Swarm host was changed. Yeah. But FireCake here, he's got some impressive stats so far this year.
Yes, he does. A lot of those, as you can see, the overall stats are quite interesting, because every single time he was in the WCS, he had a really, really difficult time gaining traction. Now, though, in 2015, especially last season, he really kind of brought that back a whole lot more. And we're seeing him win out on a few of these series, advancing into the upper echelons of the tournament. And here in the round of 16 once again, he's no longer that one-trick pony of the Swarm host that came along. I mean, for me, in fact, he wasn't that at all for quite a long time. But now he has a lot of tools available to him.
He had that reputation for a while, didn't he?
Yeah.
Of course, we do have the vetoes popping up here. MarineLorD picking Varney Research Station for first map. FireCake picking Coda for map 2. And Expedition Lost being the final map there. Interestingly, Varney is map 1. It's a map which we could potentially see mech on. It's very strong for that, but it's also quite strong for bioplay. And I think FireCake's the player right now who's really questioning what is going to get thrown at me in this series. Because FireCake, he's not the player who goes into a series and really throws out crazy strategies. He has his styles. He loves to do them. And I think he's going to go in there just confident, knowing I'm going to play the way I like to play. And I think MarineLorD's going to be the player maybe throwing some curveballs at him, trying to upset him.
Yeah. Do you think across the board here, that as much as MarineLorD is the guy that is trying to prove himself and trying to really get that top-tier performance, because let's face it, this is his best performance to date. This is his stage to prove himself on. But against FireCake, a guy that, let's be honest, he's become one of the best Zergs in Europe right now. Can MarineLorD beat this guy? As much as I would personally say FireCake is the favorite.
I think, yeah, he's a bit of a favorite, but MarineLorD's got a great shot in this series. I mean, MarineLorD coming into this, he's been getting stronger and stronger. He's been showing more varying styles. And like you said, it's always hard for a Terran player to break out in the foreign scene.
Yeah.
It's very difficult sometimes for them to find traction, to kind of have that community around them where they learn the skills. But MarineLorD's kind of burst out of the rest of the Terran players in the scene, and he is trying to kind of steal that top or maybe second best behind Bunny sort of foreign Terran level, trying to take the Lucifron mantle, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity here for, I would say, both of these players, more so MarineLorD, to try and prove himself here on those big stages. FireCake, on the other hand, let's face it, he's the villain here of WCS. He is that guy that, you know, he's infamous for his style, his characteristics, his attitude towards the game, but every good story needs a villain, and he fits that role perfectly.
Absolutely. I think, you know, FireCake's the guy who doesn't get too upset about what people think about him, and that's what's great. It's good to have a bit of personality in there because he doesn't necessarily pander to try to be liked. He just kind of goes out there and he just acts like who he is, plays his styles. Doesn't matter what people say. There's a lot of people in the community saying Swarm hosts, they're a crutch, you know. This patch is going to take FireCake out of that top echelon of pro gamers, and he's really slammed those rumors to the ground, and he's shown that he's a top-tier competitor.
Yeah.
And he can play any style. And he's able to do that and bring it out. So I think this match is going to be very tightly contested. And I think FireCake's just pushing for that, hopefully, top 8 performance, which is just going to, I think, send him to a new level in his career.
Yeah, he would like to certainly one-up himself from the previous season, obviously dropping out in the second group stage, in that round of 16 group stage that we mentioned, and then not being able to get too further forwards. But personally for me, when it comes to having our villain here and present, I would like nothing more than to see FireCake just slowly work his way up through some more people and then establishing himself as this true mastermind that could easily vanquish these guys. And, well, MarineLorD certainly has the chops to be able to rival that, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. I think it's going to be a really good match. And for both these players, it's such an important moment. I mean, we keep talking about it. It's the World Championship Series, but this is seriously a huge opportunity for these players. I've been out there playing myself before, and I know talking to all these guys over the last couple of days, they've been here warming up. Everyone's a little bit nervous. Everyone's a little bit excited because they want to show their top play here. But it's very hard in this audience, in these conditions, when you're at a LAN, you're not in necessarily your most comfortable conditions. So you've got to come out here, you've got to kind of prove that you're able to compete in any environment.
Yeah, you do. And that's actually a really good point because MarineLorD really hasn't been on some of these bigger stages, right? FireCake has a bit more wealth of experience in that regard. We've seen him not only on the stages of WCS, not only on the stage at Season 1, he was even able to, once he was eliminated from that tournament, go to another tournament at Gamers Assembly and actually just win it against people like True. And people don't, like, you can't easily beat a guy like True. He's always been like a very, very good level.
Oh, yeah. I remember that was actually really impressive. And I think that speaks to FireCake's mindset as well. A lot of players, they get, I think, carried away with nerves. I think FireCake is just very solid mentally, and part of that not bothering about reputation. Yeah, he's very just focused on, he just wants to play his game. He loves playing StarCraft. He wants to go out there and perform as best he can.
Yeah. All right. Well, looking at our first map now, it will indeed be Varney Research Station. And if you're looking at TVZ in general, slightly favoring Terrans, but overall, I feel, Pig, that it's a pretty good balanced map here for them to go into as the first game.
Absolutely. There's a very long sort of push distance between them. I guess the key characteristic of Varney is that you've got a base kind of for free in behind your main base.
Yes.
Very easy to take. That being said, because Terran versus Zerg is so focused around creep spread, if the Zerg goes for that easy option in the back, it can be a little bit harder to get creep down that ramp. So it can be very interesting to see where that sort of push goes. And because there is such an expansive space across that map, it can really stretch out. And I think creep spread usually is the deciding factor. But we were saying before, mech as well. Yeah. Very powerful here.
I mean, obviously, you are our resident professional Zerg player. Is going up against MarineLorD on a map like this something that you would be fearful of?
I think MarineLorD's a player who would scare me a lot. Obviously, I'm no longer in the tournament right now. I'm a little bit like a piece of driftwood right now, all washed up on the shore. But I think FireCake will be pretty confident going into this. But it's someone, you never underestimate a player like MarineLorD. He used to have a reputation as a very aggressive player, kind of cheesy to some extent. Like, he'd do lots of sneaky plays. But over the last 6 months to a year, he's cemented himself as having a very wide range of abilities. He can play many different styles.
Yeah.
So I think as a Zerg player, you've got to respect and appreciate that. And you've got to go into it just with your eyes open, your overlords trying to get the map hacks, trying to scout through those bases. There's a lot of different ways the game can go.
I think that's something that actually you brought up very, very well, which is that in the French scene, you see a lot of these players like just kind of practicing with one another, and MarineLorD's skill level has propelled so far forward because him, FireCake, and Little Bo, these three, the trifecta of French players that we see are fantastic. But let's get into it. Game number 1 now. As we have spawning up to the top, it is our blue Terran. It is MarineLorD here for Team Millennium. And he looks phenomenal so far in this tournament. And then down to the south, doing really, really well for himself in Season 1, really proving himself there, just being knocked out in this kind of group stage. It is FireCake for Punchline. As I said before, he is one of the villains here, and he is looking to upset anybody that may come his way.
Bad boy of StarCraft, and of course, if he can string together a good performance here, he would be looking to potentially take that sort of nanoir mantle of the bad boy who comes in, doesn't really care what people think, and just plays really good, solid StarCraft. It's going to be very, very fascinating on this map to see exactly how that does play out, though. I really am curious. A lot of Zerg players in the Korean scene especially have started taking that front base to try and get that creep spread out further. But FireCake's a guy who doesn't usually like to go for that standard hatch first play. A lot of the time we see FireCake just open up with a very early spawning pool to get out some early Zerglings and play the absolute safest opening you possibly can.
Well, for now, FireCake, as you said, he does like to play it safe. He doesn't like to really just take too many risks. Do you expect Reapers here for MarineLorD to start this off on a map like Varney?
I would expect that as a good option, but it looks like he's actually stacking up minerals now. We see that SCV heading off.
Oh, wow.
He will be going for that command center first build, so going for a very strong economy opening, not looking to do any fast aggression just yet.
And is this because he understands FireCake? I mean, what can you do with an early spawning pool against a command center first?
I think that's absolutely it. He knows there's going to be a spawning pool first, a defensive opening. FireCake's a macro defensive opening player.
Yeah.
In the early stages, he doesn't like to get overly aggressive. MarineLorD is saying, you know what? I can take a risk. I can take a command center first. It's not even a big risk because it's very easy to wall off that narrow ramp on Varney. And we do see FireCake going for that predictable pool hatchery build.
And just finishing off this wall here is Mr. MarineLorD. He'll send an SCV out as well towards the front, see what is going on. So MarineLorD wants to play with perfect information. He's got his gas guys going down as well. FireCake does see the timing of this SCV moving out, but it shouldn't be too impactful. He's not anticipating something like a bunker rush at this point after seeing in this SCV.
Absolutely not. Both players just kind of playing their own game at this point. And interestingly, it will be when does FireCake take his gas next. And for MarineLorD, we do see him just taking that gas after that barrack. So probably just a very standard Hellion follow-up for MarineLorD. This SCV scout now coming in is just going to try and confirm, is there a risk of anything coming my way? And scouting no gas there means no Zergling speed, no roaches, none of that's a possibility. So MarineLorD just dotting his I's, crossing his T's, making sure there's no possibility of some aggression coming out of FireCake. Seeing that, he feels very safe.
Is there the potential here for MarineLorD once spotting that he could play even greedier if he went for like a third command center, for example? Can he get away with those things because of what he's seen on FireCake's side?
Absolutely. I mean, on this map, it's quite safe to do that anyway because your ramp is very narrow, but seeing that, MarineLorD's going to be feeling even more comfortable and really just following the game wherever he chooses. Of course, the factory going down for him now, his Marine hedging that Overlord away, making sure FireCake can't see everything that's going on. And FireCake now dropping just a single gas geyser at home, going to try and get up some of that tech.
Yeah, that's true. Denial of vision is 9/10 of the law, as they do say, as these Lings are just going to poke on up and try and just do a little bit of nibbling. I mean, at least he saw the factory, but other than that, just going into gas back at home, making sure he's good to go. Now, is FireCake the kind of guy that would like to go for something like an early layer, even without Zergling speed, to try and go to Mutalisks? Is that something that he can throw in, or not so much?
It's not something he's known for, but even with a player like FireCake, who we kind of typecast him, we say he does the same thing a lot of the time. He's quite predictable. He's always capable in a tournament like this of picking up some new builds. However, we do see what's quite standard for him in terms of a fast Roach Warren. And this isn't for any aggression. He's just droning up and building Overlords. He just loves his defensive Roach play to shoo back those Terran Hellions. Of course, MarineLorD coming in to deny scouting now, might even snipe off this Overlord if he bothers chasing outside the base.
I think it's very, very close to dying off and actually in range. Oh! So close. Just a few more shots. He's going to have to chase that all the way back, but FireCake could potentially save it if he was to dance it between the crevice towards the natural. He's not going to, though, so that's probably going to end up dying off.
Yeah, MarineLorD going to hunt that. MarineLorD clearly has a plan here. Let's try and deny a little bit of scouting, go for the Hellions, and we do see that Tech Lab adding on to that starport in his base. He's going to be following this up with Banshee play. Cloaked Banshee harassment plus Hellions, very mobile, being able to control the map. And if there's any holes in FireCake's defense, he will be able to dive in and do some harassment.
Hellions poke forwards. Roaches will deny, as 2 extra queens are in production now here for FireCake to make sure he is well buckled down and no doubt to get that creep spread going at the front. He's already got a few active creep tumors, but the more the merrier here for FireCake, who has actually been really, really good about his creep spread as of late. We saw it in the round of 32. He really doesn't let it up.
Yeah, we actually asked him about that in the round of 32, and he said, I'm okay with taking a bit of an economic disadvantage in my games because I get the roaches out, I push back the Terran, and I get more creep spread.
Yeah,
so he says, if I can sacrifice a bit of economy to have more creep spread, I'm okay with that because then even if I'm a little bit behind, I can always take good engagements on the creep. It just makes his units so much faster. And we see that beginning here. Just so many creep tumors going down, his third base going down, and just progressing up in that tech. Meanwhile, MarineLorD actually built a Marauder, looking like he's a little bit worried about the roach aggression, and now he is just pumping out those Banshees, pumping out Cloak. His third command center is about to finish up, looking like he just wants to progress up into a really big 3 command center bio build. But this Banshee harassment could get something done.
Yep, it's already working away at these roaches because they just have nothing to counter it. The Queens are going to have to come and save. And the thing is that we actually have ranged weapons on the way here for FireCake. Is he expecting something more of a mech focus here from MarineLorD after having some of his vision denied at the end and he's a little bit in the dark?
That's really interesting, actually. Some players, it has been getting more popular to do this, and then just go back into Zergling Baneling after that +1 range and a bunch of roaches with roach speed. It not only sets you up very well against mech, but it makes you very safe. But for now, the Cloaked Banshees are coming in. Spore Crawlers aren't done yet. No Overseers here, and he is losing a lot of drones.
Yeah, if you're going to die off in the main base, maybe I'll try and find another alternate location because that Spore Crawler does finish up, give at least the Queen vision, even if it is out of range of the shots there from the Spore Crawler, and it'll just dart away for now. Second Banshee is going to enter the fray, though. And, I mean, this bio play against just roaches, surely if it gathers momentum, surely it's just going to destroy what we're seeing being built here for FireCake.
It's really interesting because it does come down to the numbers, but right now we are just seeing so much harassment damage done that it really is going to be tough for FireCake to play from here because look at that, 14, 15 drones going down. This is such a powerful harassment from MarineLorD. FireCake coming out, getting some revenge here. The Banshee's not being micro. That Banshee taking a lot of damage, and it is going to go down. A bit of a lapse of judgment there, a lapse of focus, I should say, from MarineLorD.
Yeah, not cloaking that up and letting it die off like that is a bit unexcusable here because, obviously, they do keep your opponent on the other side of the map and making sure that they're going to have to defend. That being said, though, the Roaches are moving into assault position here towards the third base. Missile attacks is finishing up. And I suppose if you could deny this location, then great, but I think that the bio should be quite handy, especially if you could catch some reinforcements.
MarineLorD coming in to try and surround that. Going to pick off a lot of these slow roaches. Roach speed just about to kick in, but it's not quite there. And all of these roaches are just free presence from MarineLorD. It's just a really nice pickup for him. We do see FireCake swapping to Zerglings behind this, but he doesn't have much out yet. And with all these roaches going down, MarineLorD might be able to just push in and just clear all that creep up.
I mean, he started the melee upgrades. He's got his 30 Zerglings on the way now, but these roaches just have not done what they needed to, right? At this point, sacrificing all of that and giving MarineLorD such room to breathe on his side, I guess it kept him back so the creep could get a bit more spread, but is that enough for a Zerg here? Is that worth it?
I think any other Zerg player would be feeling like they're in a bit of trouble here. Of course, the melee upgrade being so far behind. FireCake, though, has shown resilience in the past, even when he is a little bit behind here. And let's keep in mind that creep spread, it is going to be continuing here. He's still spreading it very, very strongly. And his supply is surprisingly still quite even with MarineLorD. So it is still quite a closely contested game here.
Well, Spire's on the way at the moment here. FireCake is just going to be relying on Lings, Banelings, and a sprinkle of roaches that had survived the last kind of attack. As you will see these drops going to the right-hand side. And thankfully for him, his Lings and Banelings should be able to get back there in time to actually defend that and push that off.
But look at that, so many Zerglings coming back for FireCake, just clicking almost his entire army back. And there is an army pushing down the left-hand side at the same time, but that Spore Crawler pushes those medevacs with ease.
At the same time, launching the attack in here from the left-hand side. These units stimmed up. They don't really have much medevac support, so they're not going to be able to stim too often. But cleaning up all of this creep is great. That's a brilliant scan to kill off the majority of the creep. Just one outlying creep tumor that's active up to that top right will linger and remain.
Absolutely. MarineLorD vying for map control here, pushing down the right-hand side, clearing the Overlords back, threatening the drop, and pushing back so much creep on that left-hand side. FireCake has got to be feeling a little bit pressed back right now, and now we see that Terran macro start to kick in. Those roaches that FireCake invested in early, not doing any damage, and we see MarineLorD pushing ahead.
Oof.
And look at that macro.
Good job, Widowmine. You did not well.
The trickster Zergling there,
Yes.
dragging that Widowmine shot right into the face of that Marauder. But another push coming in here, and MarineLorD looking like he's really taking strong map control. There is no fourth base in sight for Zerg whatsoever. So FireCake is really up against the wall right now. Normally, a Zerg player here is pushing out their creep to defend the fourth base. He hasn't even begun a fourth base, so MarineLorD, he knows he doesn't need to attack. There's no pressure on him right now. He can take his time here. As long as he keeps the creep spread back, he is in a very strong spot.
Full control of the game at the moment, but will this Ling wraparound actually work out? The Widowmines on the right-hand side, they connect with a lot of Zerglings, but didn't get too many Banelings. MarineLord's going to try and split back against some of these Banelings here, as long as he can do that, but he does lose a big clump of the Marines at the front. Doesn't have the meta to be able to heal them at the back there, so he's going to have to boost on away. And FireCake, for all intents and purposes, that was a really good denial there.
Oh, a couple good Widowmine shots at the start, but it just wasn't enough. After that, the Banelings got on top of the Marines, and the Marines didn't really have time to split. MarineLorD faltering a little bit on his micro, and look at this. FireCake's just getting on top of his production. The Thor's popping out, but it's getting shot down. There's so little Terran here.
Yeah, very, very little at all. Once a Zerg is going to chase you back to those production lines, it can try and seize the opportunity. If he morphs in some Banelings as well at the back there, that could be fantastic for him, but the SCV's coming off the line to try and fight against this. His army supply dwindling at half the supply here over the moment of FireCake, as he's just on top of this. Anything that pops out is getting absolutely destroyed instantly here by the Zerglings and Roaches. And the SCVs are crumbling. GG, game number 1 goes to FireCake after I felt for a long time MarineLorD was in control of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the caster curse, isn't it? You say one player's in a commanding position, and then suddenly FireCake just shows his flair. And I think it's something I probably should have spoke about before the match. This guy knows how to take an engagement so well. He came around, he'd set off a few Widowmines with the Zerglings before the fight start, and then he came in around, even though there was a couple good Widowmine shots, suddenly there were no Widowmine shots left. None of the Banelings had been touched, and the Marines were frantically running away, and FireCake just capitalized on that moment. He got in there and he just crushed that Terran army.
Yeah, he also, I feel that if you look at that game, he knows when to really explode in the production across even just 3 bases. He had a lot of Lings and a lot of Banelings out there to actually kind of eventually wrap and destroy the army. For the most part, wrap and destroy the army, because obviously a lot of it fell back. But it was the right amount, and you rarely see that kind of just flurry of production, like at the click of a finger.
Absolutely, and on 3 base, let's put that in perspective. You know, the Terran player wasn't really on creep, and he was on 3 base all game, and yet he got those units out, and he took that fight and managed to overwhelm that. So it was a very, very powerful game. Game 2, though, going on to Coda. Now, this is quite a balanced map. We see the WCS statistics for this year, relatively even. 9 wins for Terran, 7 for Zerg. Of course, Polt skewing our statistics as always. It is a very balanced map, and it's quite straightforward. What's going to be interesting on this map is where the Zerg player takes a 4th base, and how the Terran decides to assault that.
All right, well, let's get into it. Game number 2 here at the moment as FireCake leads 1-0. Down to the bottom right-hand corner, it is our blue Terran. It is MarineLorD for Team Millennium, and he did look in command of that game for quite a while, but unfortunately it let it slip. Against this man up to the top left, which is our red Zerg, it is FireCake here, representing Team Punchline. And, I mean, can you fault him? Can you fault him for being able to recover in those kinds of situations? It's not like he took too much damage himself, but it's the Banshees at the beginning of the game did quite a lot, and I expected that 15 drone loss to take a bit more of a toll on him, but apparently that wasn't the case.
FireCake has this way of defying the logic, I think, of StarCraft sometimes, where you see him take a lot of damage early on, and he still just turns these games around. In Zerg vs Terran more than any other matchup, I have seen FireCake just turn so many series on their head when every single factor is stacked against him. And it's partly to do with his icy calm in the face of pressure. A lot of other players crack, they feel pressured like they need to make something special happen. But FireCake, his engagements are always special. So he actually feels completely comfortable when he's quite far down in supply against Terran, because he knows that he's just got to wait for that opportunity. He's just got to wait for it, and we see it just like a click of his fingers. He just loves to close in on that Terran army, and I think as MarineLorD, you've got to be feeling a little bit devastated after that game, because you've got to feel like you were in such a good position.
Yeah, it was. It was. And unfortunately for him, it didn't go quite his way. So now he's going to have to mount a little bit of a comeback here in this best of 3. But also, you've got to look outside just this best of 3 and think to yourself, MarineLorD, of all people, MarineLorD does not want to lose to. One of them is FireCake. These guys have quite that rivalry, as we mentioned before. And this is MarineLorD golden opportunity to prove himself here on the WCS stage. Whereas FireCake, technically, yes, has been here, has done it, but he wants more. He wants more. He is hungry for top finishes here in WCS.
Absolutely, and it's always scary when you lose your first match in this series. You've come here to such a big event, you want to win it. If you're down a game like MarineLorD right now, it's a very scary moment. We do see him opening up with a very safe Reaper opening. Interestingly, I believe it was actually an 11 racks Reaper, so we might see him queue up some more Reapers, and we do there. So looking like MarineLorD wants to put on very heavy aggression in the opening stages with a very fast 2 or 3 Reapers. And because FireCake doesn't like to take that early gas, he's going to need to be very on top of his queens, making sure they're in position to stop those Reapers getting in and clearing out his drone lines.
I mean, for MarineLorD here, can this do a lot? I mean, there is that one ledge there that allows you to end up jumping in. The Queen here, pretty fast, one would say. You usually don't get these small timings where Queen is there before the Reaper actually gets along.
No, it isn't. And of course, MarineLorD, though, kind of anticipating this, he's actually just going for damage on the Queen. We saw him kind of deal a bunch of damage out, and because those combat drugs, that healing kicks into effect once the Reaper's out of combat for a few seconds. We see it now regenerating, and he's going to wait for more Reapers to join up, and that will allow him to keep on putting that pressure on. Of course, though, FireCake sneaking a couple Zerglings around the edge of the map. He wants to get in here, and he wants to cancel that command center of MarineLorD's. MarineLorD, though, he's got that Reaper here standing on guard duty, waiting to intercept.
Yeah, he's very astute about this. I mean, when the first Reaper goes in, sees only a Queen and no Zerglings to deny it, usually the Zerg is going to have made some Zerglings. So where on earth are they? And they were on the other side of the map trying to assault, as you mentioned. So now the Reapers are free to move a little bit further forward.
And he does have 3 of them together now, so this is the scary moment for Zerg. With FireCake only just about to start harvesting gas, he has no Zergling speed, no roaches, and it looks like 3 of his Queens are at the front, so these Reapers are going to hop in the back and they're going to start trying to focus down these Queens.
And they might turn onto the drone. They're going to actually just go straight for the Queen here. Make sure they can get that kill very, very quickly. Now hop on down to the low ground as well towards the natural. Drones have to get pulled off the line. It's very, very difficult to save the drones by making a building against 3 Reapers because the volleys come in so quickly. The focus fire is there from MarineLorD, and he grabs himself 2 drone kills, which is very, very good here with these first 3 Reapers.
Of course, killing a Queen as well so early. It's just a really nice momentum. Piece of momentum for MarineLorD, but he did invest in these 3 Reapers. It's a big investment, so he does want to keep on pushing FireCake back. He wants to keep getting bits of damage done. There we go, taking a creep tumor out, and he is coming in, trying to kill these Queens even further. He's getting some very, very nice damage done.
Yeah, very nice. Just back on out, heal himself up, and then keep those Reapers alive, all importantly to couple up with the Hellions, which can then power on a little bit better.
Yeah, he's going to have that real mobility advantage. Reapers, Hellions, and we do see a starport coming down, quite possibly for Banshees. And FireCake is going to really struggle to get that 3rd base down and protect the drone lines at the same time. MarineLorD here enjoying this mobility advantage, but his economy has been a little bit slower to pick up. FireCake, patient as ever, actually adding even more Queens on to replace his losses, as well as a couple of Roaches. But his 3rd base still hasn't gone down, and it is getting to that point of the game where he really does need that extra production.
All right, well, just transferring a drone over now to start this 3rd base. Very important that he makes sure that it's not delayed by too much. But one thing's for sure is that he likes to play it a little bit later than some, so he's not taking damage to those Reapers and Hellions.
Absolutely. Reaper does come in there for his scout. FireCake going for a very cute evolution chamber block. This Reaper coming in, just getting a full scout, trying to check what's going on. And it did see no gases in the main base, which might set a couple of alarm bells ringing, but MarineLorD is going for Cloaked Banshee, so he's very safe against Roaches here. Once again, seeming like he feels like this is the formula to beat FireCake. Oh, but a bit of a mishandle there.
Yeah, those Roaches holding on strong, doing well at the front, and now, actually, the majority of his army is in full retreat. He's trying to identify exactly what he's playing against, and right now, the extra production facilities haven't been added on just yet, despite the heightened number of Hellions that are actually coming out here. So, MarineLorD, he does have all 4 gases. Does he go into mech from this?
I'm not quite sure just yet. We do see an armory going down, so it is quite possible that that is his transition from here. And we have seen him do it before in the round of 32. His Banshee comes in but gets deflected very easily. No 15 worker kills off the first couple Banshees this game. And FireCake going for a nice little pressure here against these light, low damage units. They're having a really tough time taking these Roaches down.
Yeah, that's why we saw him actually adding on a Marauder to just try and fend this off a little bit easier. He was kind of scared as to what was going on. The Banshee is significant against these Roaches, and he will be able to clean up the majority of this. That Marauder just has the extra bit of spice that will vanquish them pretty fast.
Absolutely. Didn't get too much damage done with the roaches, but he does push MarineLorD back, even taking out a couple of supply depots. That last one burning down, which does cause a supply block, and it really pushes MarineLorD back to his side of the map. So even though there wasn't a lot of direct damage, we see FireCake now free to drone his third base, adding his double evolution chambers, his Spire, really looking to push up into that macro stage. And remember, we haven't seen as many drone losses this game, so I think FireCake is in a much better position than he was before.
And if he's going to incur those drone losses, it might come at the hands of these two Banshees moving towards the left-hand side bases. He's got actually, he's identified his opponent's build quite well. He's already got the range and the carapace on the way to gear up for a heightened factory-based army. As these Banshees trying to find the sweet spot. They are technically detected there by the Spore Crawler, and the Queen can shoot at them, but the Spore isn't providing any firepower. Nice transfuse, though. Will keep himself, one of these Queens, alive. And he only lost 2 drones to that, so that was quite the good cleanup, though, and push away.
Yeah, very nice defense so far from FireCake, and this is where FireCake excels. When he can be left alone in his side of the map, he's just very, very powerful. MarineLorD, on the other hand, his build-up here into this mech composition, it's been a little bit slowed down. And with Mutas coming out to clear up the Banshees and then the potential for a very big Roach push, it's going to be very hard for MarineLorD to kind of cement that 3-base position. There's a timing here where, notice there's no siege tanks out yet, and he's building Thors to defend the Mutalisks. He's not going to be ready for these Roaches that are coming in. So if FireCake wants to commit to a big aggressive timing, he definitely has a window to get some damage done.
Yeah, the Thors can't really be straying onto the map too early. They need a good backing, a good solidified base of that army, just to make sure that they're not going to die to some random little attack. But for now, a few Lings poked forward. They really saw this, almost the full extent of the army, actually. There's not much more behind that, of course, with the Thors now being mixed in.
FireCake going to Drone City right now, adding those on. MarineLorD going to Factory Town on the other side of the map. Both players looking like they want to really just build up. And I think this is a bit of a change in attitude from last game from MarineLorD. Obviously playing mech, it's a completely different style, but it also speaks of his attitude here. Being 1 game away from losing the series, playing a much more defensive, what some would call a safer style here, but taking a little bit of damage from these.
And the thing is that because FireCake in the past has been a Swarm Host player, he's got quite a lot of experience versus mech. People were trying to stall out against Swarm Host, but now that they are changed, obviously, actually this assault, is this going to catch FireCake slightly off guard? This is a bit earlier than I was expecting MarineLorD to push out.
Really cute push there. If he actually committed, he might have been able to get some really good damage done, but it's such a hard call. As the Terran player, MarineLorD, you don't see what we see, and you feel like, oh, there could be 20 Roaches popping out at the drop of a hat. But he did go across, and in his mind, he's thinking, well, I'm forcing units. I'm stopping you from building drones. But FireCake already had 90 drones on the map, so FireCake's very comfortable right now.
He's busy at the moment here for FireCake, who's just playing his own game, despite that small blip, that small glimpse of his opponent's army walking its way into his territory. And he has great vision. I mean, look at his Overlord spread. Look at his control of this map at the moment here, FireCake. And MarineLorD sees basically nothing outside of his corner of the map. He is really, really trapped in here at the moment.
Absolutely. This is the choice that MarineLorD is taking as the mech player, and we've seen him play this sort of style before where you've got to defend. You've got to defend for a very long time, but it does give a lot of opportunity for the Zergs to choose what they want to do, and wow! Huge number of Roaches pouring in there.
Yeah, this is an aggressive push here out of him. He wants to even just trade off. He was almost maxed out, so these Roaches are going to sacrifice their lives in favor of being able to trade off against some of these siege tanks, some of the Hellbats as well. Even sending some into the natural base just to combat some of these SCVs, bring these down, slow MarineLorD down into the later stages of this mech-based composition. And you can already see the numbers of how much money FireCake had compared to where MarineLorD was. Getting any SCVs is okay.
Absolutely. I mean, those Roaches, they do not cost a lot for FireCake right now. He's harvesting so many more resources. He can afford to throw units away. And a couple of those siege tanks being caught at the front of that fight, it really diminished MarineLorD's anti-Roach army.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot of siege tanks left over. And notice now he's moving out to take this 4th, but FireCake is just maxing on Roaches once again. A massive Roach count. And if he can keep trading off units, this is going to be very strong.
Yes, and he'll position himself to the left and to the right. That being said, though, this army here for MarineLorD is still quite potent, quite strong. It's 108 army supply against 110, so FireCake doesn't want to overstep his boundaries too much. He is building up that bank. He's going to slowly tease out some maneuvering here from this army, because this one angle alone will force out MarineLorD to have to come back with the rest of this army.
Look at this, yeah, just buying for time, as you say, trying to pull him one way, push the other. And he's just being very annoying here, trying to trade off these units. He is getting a nice little couple of SCV kills there, making a hole in the wall, but very good defense with that siege tank just out of range.
Good anticipation of the move here. The Roaches are going to try and just bust through this army on the right-hand side, but he knew that that was possibly the outcome of him actually trying to attack that area as well. So it just brought the Banshees back with the Vikings to clean up that left flank. That was well done by
Very
MarineLorD.
good defense from MarineLorD. Interesting, though, there's no transition here from FireCake until just now. He's getting Hydralisks and a Hive. He's spent so much time on Roach Tech. I dare say he was almost over-committing to that. So he's really, really committed on this low-tier tech. And MarineLorD, sensing that he's got an opportunity here, is pushing back the creep, edging in. Is he going to commit this army all the way on creep?
I don't know. This Roach is on the right-hand side here, trying to go at this command center, and he cancels and will lift it up. That would have got very, very scary. That being said, on the left-hand side as well here, MarineLorD is going to try and push down this base. Will get that. That cripples a little bit of FireCake's economy here. Does he even have enough units to deal with this? These Hydralisks are naked at the moment. They don't have Roaches to reinforce them at the front. MarineLorD looks to just be going for one big death push.
There's no upgrades for these Hydralisks just yet. The Hydra range hasn't even kicked in. He's got so many drones, but he is coming in with a nice flank. Is it going to be enough to overwhelm this, though? The Hellbat's coming back to buffer for this force. The siege tank volleys are absolutely massive. The Vikings landing to buffer, but a lot of Terran units are going down.
Roaches and Hydras from the top here reinforcing are going to be able to push this away. He needs to get those Vikings out of there, making sure that those Hydras don't kill off any more of that. Because for MarineLorD, that was a big investment there, and FireCake had just enough to be able to push on through.
Absolutely, MarineLorD just overstepped a little bit, came down into the open, and now that, very good siege tank volleys there. The supply count looking very small for MarineLorD, but FireCake, notice he's taken a big beating here, only at 150 supply himself, struggling to get this new fourth base up and mining.
Yeah, really, really good stuff there by FireCake. Aside from, like, I don't think he needed to push in too aggressively there, but this fourth base, and the Hellions actually coming along as well to deal with it. I think he might have set himself up a wall. Very good move here by FireCake, re-establish it, and knowing from his previous vision that we mentioned, but he's still finding angles to get some kills. The wall is great, but if you're losing all the drones behind it, it's not really working out.
Yeah, it's such a cool move from FireCake there. Something we don't see every day, actually saving about 15 more drones there. Yeah. I think that was a great move. MarineLorD still getting some kills there, but the supply counts are still very even. FireCake, though, starting to transition towards that Ultralisk cavern, building more Hydralisks. It's interesting to see, do these players just keep trying to butt these mid-tier armies into each other, or are they going to try and transition to a little bit of a higher tech? So far, it looks like MarineLorD just wants to hang on to the fourth base, just Thors, Vikings, siege tanks, and Hellion harassment to try to keep FireCake off his back.
I mean, obviously, MarineLorD's go-to later on is that heightened starport production, but I don't think he really has the window here compared to FireCake's potential of a window of transitioning on, right?
Absolutely not. And wow, okay, so FireCake, on the other hand, is at 95 drones, and he's building another 12, going up to over 100 drones. Meanwhile, these Hellions coming in, looks like they're going to kill drones. Little do they know, there's already so many drones for FireCake.
Doesn't matter.
It almost doesn't. He's going to need to kill so many to even make a dent. It does get 7 drone kills, but not really worthwhile. And FireCake's still sitting pretty at 96 drones.
Now, with him being at this high drone count here, Pig obviously being our resident Zerg expert, does this not hinder the Zerg? Does it not eat into the amount of army supply that you can actually have to combat such a strong force as mech?
Absolutely. This is sort of a symbol of saying, I don't want to fight right now. I'm just going to defend. I hopefully have enough units to defend, but I definitely can't go off creep and attack you. And we're going to invest in the late game. You see FireCake here putting down a lot of static defense, continuing to just defend, spread creep, and add static defense and upgrades. He really doesn't want to fight until he's added a lot more potentially Queens and Ultralisks to the army is what I would guess. It's a little bit hard to tell exactly what his choice would be. He could also do a massive Mutalisk swap, or maybe even corrupt a Broodlord.
Yeah, we've seen that a few times. I think from FireCake in the past as well. Even with him having a lot of Vipers in that mix to just draw armies our way. He's already got 3 at the moment. Not quite the 6 or 7 we've seen him use in the past sometimes. But 3 is ample here for Blinding Clouds to be able to deny damage coming out from that mech force.
And he is starting to push in here. FireCake trying to kind of find an edge to maybe trade off some of these low-tier Roach Hydra units. His Vipers are now here, so he can abduct into here, but the Viking Banshee reigning over the skies is going to push him back for now.
A lot of Queens actually here in support as well. They will want to drop some more creep tumors potentially on that left-hand side, really make it an issue down that left flank, but at the same time, FireCake is just setting himself up really, really well. This this base that previously was assaulted is not going to be too easy to do again, but this one up towards the top, the third base here for FireCake. More drones die, but he's still at 92. He was making even more before these Hellions even killed anything.
Absolutely, and right now I believe FireCake can afford to take those trades a little bit more than MarineLorD. If we look at those banks, FireCake's investment in such a huge drone count is continuing to pay off in terms of that amount of resources he has banked. He is now swapping his upgrades to the melee ones, adding flyer attacks, and once again droning back to almost 100 drones. Meanwhile, MarineLorD also looking like he wants to play the late game. Rather than maxing out, he actually stopped the constant Hellion tank Thor production, is now getting 3 Ravens at a time, getting that Corvid reactor upgrade, that building armor upgrade. MarineLorD is looking to add that ball of Ravens, those energy units that constantly allow you to get value from their spells.
Yeah. And when you're going up against something like that as a Zerg player, what's really your best answer against Ravens? Because they can be notoriously difficult to close the gap on and try and unlock. What do you want to do as the Zerg against that Raven number?
It's very, very difficult. I think most Zerg players out there are going to tell you, never let the Terran get to that ball of Ravens. Like, we don't want that to happen. And if we look at the banks, we see that MarineLorD's only eking these out a few at a time. He's very low on gas, whereas FireCake has a huge amount of money. That being said, if FireCake gives MarineLorD enough time to get out that ideal army, it's going to be very hard for him to find an opportunity to trade onto MarineLorD. Of course, right now, though, FireCake being very clever, he is mining gas from the bottom left base, really stealing the resources on MarineLorD's side of the map. And as MarineLorD looks to take a 5th base, he's going to be very starved, trying to find where can he actually get long-term resources. And FireCake doesn't look like he wants to attack. He wants to starve MarineLorD out. That's his strategy here. Add all the upgrades, get all the tech, maybe get some infestors, just defend, defend, defend. And do not go off creep and fight. Just mine every resource on the map and force the Terran out of the game in the slow way.
And making sure, of course, that he doesn't forget one of the most forgotten upgrades in the game, adrenal glands. As those Zerglings, if he actually does have some later on, can be useful, can help out quite a lot. They kill things off pretty fast with adrenal glands. But, I mean, he has the back to do it.
Big attack coming in here. Vipers landing some blinding clouds, not too impactful, abducting a few siege tanks. The Terran army looking pretty massive coming up here. And FireCake cleverly picks up a few units for free and withdraws.
The biggest part about that, he has one Ultralisk with the backing of Queens, and he used the Ultralisk as the buffer, right? And then constantly transfuse, 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 never allowing that to die, as it would be the main point of the army. Once again, comes in here, the Ultralisk taking quite a bit of damage, but the Queens still have their transfuses to be able to keep that alive, draws one of those in, actually gets a command center, and will back off for now. There's a lot of blood across the ground here, but he'll be able to just remax out. 4 more Vipers on the way. We mentioned before that heightened Viper number that he is very powerful with.
Absolutely. Reducing the space on the map here is FireCake. FireCake trying to abuse the lack of mobility from this slow mech army. And look at this, he's not committing here, he's just forcing the mech army forward, and he's slipping a counterattack down to the 3rd base at the same time. We are just seeing FireCake almost bait him forward here, little bit by little bit.
And he will at least to get himself this base on the left, but as I said, FireCake has just completely dominated this map at the moment. He's setting himself up some defense down to the bottom left, which technically that base is going to be sacrificed if he wants to go to it, but going to it as the Terran means that the entire right side of the map is completely vulnerable, surely.
Absolutely, and MarineLorD just cannot get a 5th base down right now. These roaches aren't going to get too much done. MarineLorD catching them, but it's just buying time. MarineLorD does not have a lot of time left. FireCake's bank is getting out of control. MarineLorD needs to establish control of this map. He needs to push this creep back, but FireCake is just being relentless, hitting where his army is not.
Yeah, very well done here by FireCake at the moment. He takes a slight dip in army supply, but he's got the bank to back it up. And one Ultralisk will die off at the front, not exactly being in range here for any transfuses, but it doesn't matter too much because the damage keeps on piling forwards here for FireCake. This is a great separation here, though, by MarineLorD.
Very, very good move. Trying to get rid of that base, get rid of that mining. FireCake's army getting whittled down here in the middle, rebuilding a few Ultras, a few Infestors. He's still got that core of Vipers, a couple of Queens there. But now investing in the big Ultralisk swap. 7 Ultralisks all at once. MarineLorD clearing out these bases, but the creep remains. He cannot land these command centers just yet. He's still got to wait a little bit before he can establish more mining. And just one bad fight, and he cannot replenish his army. Look at his bank. There is 7,500 minerals and 5,000 gas for FireCake, and a pitifully small bank for MarineLorD in comparison.
Yeah, very, very simple here for FireCake to almost start slamming against this army and just trying to trade off. Oh my god, he actually managed to get this hatchery down! Oh, the blocks continue on, and he's going to actually come in here to the right-hand side again, knowing his opponent's army was to the left, trying to clean that up, maybe get himself a command center or two. That is a planetary fortress. He's actually blinding it with the blinding cloud to make sure that the Ultralists aren't really going to take too much damage here, as there weren't that many queens for the transfuses, but at the same time, some Seeker missiles do try and land on these Hydras at the back. He pulls them all the way back, so they are fine, and he will lose a few Ultras at the front.
Does lose a couple ultras for his trouble there. This siege tank spread from MarineLorD, though, looking very, very impressive. A couple of very nice abducts pulling those siege tanks forward, but the ultras are dying so quickly that I'm not sure if this is a good trade.
I mean, the missile turrets almost created a tower defense-like moment there where they couldn't quite get through the path that they wanted to and got rerouted. So nicely done here by MarineLorD to have this perimeter set up. But the Infestors are entering the field now. Oh, dear.
Cheeky Overlord down in the bottom left. FireCake is just being so annoying trying to deny these bases. That being said, MarineLorD knows if he can just hold on to this fifth, he might be okay. But these planetaries on the right-hand side are starting to go down. The relentless horde of Zerg is flooding in. FireCake's bank looking so powerful, and those fungals on the Ravens. Huge damage going down there.
Same time, some Seekers do actually catch all of those Infestors, and they actually connect with some of these Hydras. Really, really well done there by MarineLorD. Wow, these guys are really giving us a show. Those Infestors getting those fungals, if only they'd have had some backup to that to be able to just continue that on and get big kills.
Absolutely. FireCake's bank still looking absolutely monstrous. MarineLorD, on the other hand, is getting lower in supply. These Hydras coming in. Are they going to be able to take down this planetary? The point defense drones go down. A very nice defense there from MarineLorD. But MarineLorD is struggling right now to get his supply back up. He needs more units, but he's actually swapping to pure air at this point. He's only building Banshees and command centers. This is a really interesting late game play here, saying, you know what, you're building a lot of Ultralists, you're building a lot of ground units. With point defense drones, with Seeker missiles, I can just move to the skies.
Does he have enough money here for this? I mean, the Infested Tyrants are going to land in front of this. All these trade-offs still keep going in favor of FireCake. He'll take another command center. Of course, there's tons still remaining here behind this for MarineLorD, but still, the gas choke, if he can try and deny some of these bases, nice actually being able to land that one. It could be
This
monstrous.
motion comes in once again, pushing one side and then coming to the other, and the Terran army is always just lagging behind. MarineLorD's just never there in time, and this planetary looks like it's finally about to go down, but the point defense drones, the repair, the Seeker missiles, all these spells coming in, and look at these Zerg units. These Seeker missiles are just absolutely obliterating the Infestors.
Very, very well done here by MarineLorD to be able to save that. It was just at the cusp there of actually dying off that command center, and he is able to save this. FireCake actually committed a lot to this. Obviously, his whole army really wanted to kill it because it was so close, and when you do that, you're sitting around against those Seeker missiles, which will clean you up. So FireCake has to play this, in that regard, a little bit more patiently, but look how well MarineLorD has taken back his side of the map to the left. It's actually brilliant.
He may be breathing a sigh of relief right now, but he is still not maxed. He's still got a lot of supply free, and this army continues to come in here, picking away. Is FireCake actually going to be able to make headway? Because MarineLorD right now, if he can sit here and just hold on for another minute or two to these 5-6 bases, he will actually be building that bank up. He will be able to max out, and if he can get a maxed out huge army, he will be way ahead in army supply because he's using mules. He does not need as many workers. He can have a lot more army supply. But once again, it looks like FireCake's caught him out of position.
Yeah, going to move in here with these Hydras there. Ultralists are going to buffer at the front. He doesn't have that many Queens left over, so they can't exactly throw down a ton of transfuses. The Seeker missiles will try and zone out some of these Hydras out the back, but wisely, FireCake moves those out of position, make sure they're not going to take damage. A good fungal will lock down a bit of that army, and it's crippled some of the economy here with those command centers dying off. So FireCake, once again, with the trades, but can he get to the core of this army? Can he deal with all of these Ravens?
There's just not enough damage output on the ground here for MarineLorD, and we see after losing that base, losing so many units there, his supply has just dropped. He threw out Seeker missiles, which is great for making the Zerg pull back temporarily, but there was just nothing else dealing damage to punish FireCake for having to pull back half of his army. As a result, MarineLorD's army here looking a little bit thin and being pushed off that fourth base. He's really struggling. Now comes a big Zergling remax. These units flooding into the natural to try and get some damage done.
Getting into that natural, pretty annoying. If he splits them off towards the main, maybe he could actually do some damage, but these Hellbats have popped out at just the right time. MarineLorD read that situation really well. It's clear he's played a lot against FireCake, knowing that there was the potential of things actually being able to flood him out. He didn't really have that many Hellbats to begin with whilst that little counter-attack was going on, so Great read by MarineLorD, keeps himself alive in this game.
Absolutely, and he's massing a lot of Hellbats now, partly because his gas count is so low. Losing the mining on this 4th base has been disastrous for his gas income. MarineLorD cannot afford a lot of those tech units, and those +3 Hellbats, let's keep in mind, they do one-shot Zerglings. So Zerglings, they're great for counterattacking, they do huge damage, but they cannot go head-to-head against those Hellbats. FireCake, on the other hand, he's still got that single Ultralisk in that army, looking very, very meaty there with the Queens behind it. But he's still just kind of steadily mining out, playing the slow game, and ooh, going for a drone sacrifice. A tactical drone sacrifice there, saying, I am actually mining at maximum efficiency with just 50 drones right now. The map's running out of resources. I'd rather put my money into more army so I can take better engagements.
Yeah, FireCake is... You know, he's done well in terms of actually getting his composition where he wants to be. He's got a lot of infestors for himself, but he's just been plowing against this again and again and again. And MarineLorD, with the resilience that he's been able to show here in this game, and then just slowly push back the Zerg each time has been strong. And now that you get up to those many Ravens, it's very difficult as the Lings are going to try and flood forwards once again. There was actually an attempt at a bungle.
A huge army coming in there. So many infested Terrans. The Ravens aren't doing much. They're pulling back. They've got a lot of energy. Now moving forward, and FireCake does have to pull back. Very patient use of those Ravens by MarineLorD.
And 11 Ultralisks, are these really going to be able to do what they need to? I mean, against what we're seeing here from MarineLorD, I feel that his composition's just too strong right now.
I think he needs a few more units on the ground, though. Keep in mind, there's not a lot of actual damage output hitting ground units. There's a couple Banshees, I believe. There's a lot of Ravens. The Ravens are great for blocking. They put down auto turrets to obstruct the Ultralisks, but they need enough damage behind that. Notice this is still a relatively small force of siege tanks, so if there's any blinding clouds or any of the tanks are out of position, those Ultralisks may be able to do catastrophic damage.
They may. Setting himself up a lot of auto turrets once again. The auto turrets are great for actually denying Ultralisks from getting where they want to be. They will be leading the charge for now.
Oh, there's the blinding clouds I was talking about. There's just not enough damage on the ground for MarineLorD. Only 2 siege tanks firing right now, 1 Banshee in the skies. This Zerg army just is not getting killed. And all these Terran units are starting to get pushed through.
Yeah, Seeker missiles tried to catch a lot of that at the front. More actually being lined up here for the Ultralisks. Can he clean it up in time, though, because they are slowly chewing through this army. And despite 5 or so going up on these Ultras, trying to split them up as well. More Hunter Seekers still going on, and he will grab himself 1 more Ultralisk. But FireCake, the army supplies are looking very even. He is constantly trying to batter down this wall, and each time MarineLorD is slowly gaining traction.
He is, but it's so close right now. FireCake's bank is running low. His next fight is going to be crucial. This whole game is going to come down to this next engagement. FireCake is way up in army supply, 158 to 120. MarineLorD needs time. He needs to slowly get that gas in so he can get more siege tanks, more Thors, and he cannot let those blinding clouds land like they did in that last engagement. Notice that he doesn't have the gas to rebuild his Vikings. That's the big problem right now. Those Vipers are just coming in unchallenged. They're blinding clouding everything. And once again, the auto turret wall goes up, and FireCake is trying to bash his way through.
Gonna try this some blinding clouds as well at the back here to deny some of the damage from these siege tanks coming out. I'm not sure he has enough. Here come the Hunter Seekers again, trying to kill off some of this army, but the Ultralisks at the front stand strong. FireCake here, despite as much as all that's gone on in this game, despite him trying again and again and again, has he broken this wall? There's a little bit of energy left on these Ravens here, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. The Ultralisks are everywhere now.
These Ultralisks just have so many hit points, and the planetary fortresses on their own, I don't know if they can actually defend this. The Zerg forces are kind of spread out. They're fighting planetary fortresses in multiple locations, but there just doesn't seem to be enough Terran. These Ravens, like I said, they buy time, but they don't do enough direct damage. These Seeker missiles are too slow. They finally going out 1 or 2 at a time, and Ultralisk goes down, but meanwhile, all the Terran economy is getting shut down.
Yeah, all importantly, 1 Ultralisk survived and killed off that command center down there with very few hit points left available to him. I mean, the army supplies now technically are in favor of MarineLorD, but he needs to get everything together. He needs to be able to shut this down. He's losing important bases, and once again, Seeker missiles really don't do much. They've done a lot in this game, but somehow FireCake is powering through these. But now that he doesn't have a bank here, still, how does he challenge these Ravens?
He's still got 1 more scary army in him, but MarineLorD is hanging on. He's hanging on by the skin of his teeth, but he is hanging on, and his air fleet survives. They are getting damage done over and over and over. Oh, a powerful fungal growth lands, but the Seeker missiles force those infestors back. The Ultralisks are falling. Siege tanks still stand here, and has MarineLorD weathered the storm?
It looks like he may have done. His army supply is strong. He's going to even drop some mules as well. And MarineLorD, after a relentless 25-minute assault here from him to prove his worth in WCS has been able to hold on strong. FireCake has thrown everything at him in this second game, and it just hasn't worked. Unbelievable by MarineLorD.
MarineLorD has he's been almost knocked over so many times. He's been like a drunken sailor on the deck of a ship in the middle of a storm, just barely keeping his feet upright. And it looks like he was about to get battered down so many times, but he's just managed to hold on. And now his army is looking unstoppable against this paltry Zerg force.
He's got to rely on fungal growths alone, but how are you supposed to do that when you don't have anything to buffer for it, when there's so many Seeker missiles available to your opponent? These queens stray forwards to do just nibbling damage that they can possibly get in, but it's not going to be enough at the moment. He needs something bulkier.
FireCake has no mining left. He's long-distance mining, and MarineLorD still has that base in the bottom left-hand side. He's re-established his 5th base here in the center, and this is the last army of FireCake desperately trying to get something done here.
And we'll move forwards again here. So many spellcasters here for FireCake, but not really a brunt force to just be able to tank for those spells to come to effect. Obviously, if you landed a fungal growth on all of those clumped up, great, but following up can be a little bit more difficult, especially if those siege tanks are on the ground just being able to shell away. He'll bring down one of them, but there's still so much left here for MarineLorD.
There are so many resources left on MarineLord's side of the map. He's still mining them out, and look at this Hellbat wall. This is just impenetrable right now for FireCake, and he doesn't have a lot of damage output behind it, but he's still got so many Ravens that just keep replenishing that energy. And what we have to remember here, the reason MarineLord's been able to weather this storm is these Ravens over and over again. They've replenished their energy, and they've got those cost-efficient trades because they're not dying. They're just casting spells and waiting for that energy to regenerate.
Even just 5 Hellions getting 1 Infestor alone here is a big deal for FireCake. He needs to keep every unit he has alive, and just trading that off for minerals alone against Hellions, that's a nice little trade there from MarineLorD, I would say.
Absolutely. FireCake now looking very desperate, trying to steal what resources he can. I think slowly coming to terms with the situation, realizing that this Terran player just still has mining and he does not. And he's coming in for one big engage here, loses an Ultralisk and pulls back. It's this hopeless moment as a Zerg where you realize you've thrown everything you've got at the Terran, but it didn't get it done.
No, not at all. And unfortunately, he has very little left. He's going to lose quite a bit of that army out the front. 48 army supply against 143 here for MarineLorD. A sacrifice of siege tanks just sating the Zerg gods. Why on earth not? Because he has plenty behind that.
This is a really, really hard situation for FireCake right now. Slowly coming to terms with this. He's picking away, trying to still go one side and then hit the other, hit one side, hit the other. But the Terran army is just on top of it. And there's this impenetrable Hellbat force. Because he's building so many Hellbats, he's still got so many more minerals on the map. He doesn't care about the Hellions dying. They're not valuable to him. As long as his gas units survive each little skirmish, he's just getting a higher and higher army supply, and he's at the moment at triple the army supply of FireCake.
I mean, there's almost no way that FireCake can come back into this game. It's very difficult once you find yourself in this position, and he will dance around for a long time as quickly as possible because, thankfully for him, he has quite a lot of creep here. But with this creep now receding, this is MarineLorD's opportunity to bring the fight finally, after 30 minutes worth, to FireCake's side of the map.
Righteous retribution from the Terran mech army, being forced into a corner for so long, feeling like he was playing the last mission in the Wings of Liberty campaign, and then finally getting the chance to go across the map and kill the Zerg swarm. Zerg being pushed back here, the mech starting to move forward very methodically. The Spine Crawlers desperately trying to defend, but they are not going to be able to stop this mech army.
The march of the Spine Crawlers unfortunately walks to their end like lemmings falling off a cliff. This is not good here at all for FireCake. It's a last-ditch effort to try and hold on. Seeker Missile will hit some of those queens as well. They're going to transfuse themselves to keep themselves alive. But MarineLorD is on the victory march here, showing absolute brilliant resilience here in this game. And FireCake can do nothing but run away.
Absolutely. It's one of these moments where, as the Zerg player, you're trying to figure out exactly where the Terran's economy is at. You're saying, surely he doesn't have a lot of mining left. It's so hard to judge in this sort of game. So you're thinking, maybe if I can just keep on looking for that good engagement, if I can get that money fungal on those Ravens, maybe I can turn this game around. But he can't see what we can see, that there is still a strong, healthy gas income for MarineLorD. Those bases have just lasted a lifetime for him because he was so slow to initially secure them.
Yeah. I mean, when you see 27 Ravens going up against a very, very meager force, I mean, I'm not really sure how he's able to do anything against that regardless, but he will continue to play this out. until apparently the very last unit here. He's got another Ultralisk about to pop, but there's units everywhere here for MarineLorD, bringing down these buildings and securing himself the victory. It's very difficult at this point.
Never underestimate the money fungal. That's what FireCake's staying in this for right now.
There you go.
He's looking for that opportunity, and he does.
GG.
GG.
Game number 2 goes to MarineLorD. He ties up this series after what could have easily been a 2-0 victory there for FireCake. I mean, you go back 25, 30 minutes in this game, and you could easily see FireCake with the bank he had. I mean, I think he had almost 10k, 5k against 1k, 400. Those kinds of situations, you know Zerg has a really, really good stranglehold on the game, but the resilience of MarineLorD, brilliant stuff.
Oh, wow. Absolutely. It was one of those moments where you could just see the Terran player, MarineLorD, just struggling to max out.
Yeah.
And it's so exhausting when you play a game like that, but to win it, to come out at the end of that, you could see him at the end there grabbing a drink of his water, trying to rehydrate after what would have been such an intense, like you said, 25 minutes of Zerg bashing against the Terran wall. But what we've just witnessed is, I think, a very big momentum swing in this series. You really need to never underestimate exactly how big that is when you're so close to being overwhelmed, but then you just play this macro style, this very defensive, I've just got to play for the late game. I've got to play for the late game. And when you pull that off, when you're in such a tricky spot as he was that game with creeping and cringing on his bases, I think MarineLorD now suddenly feels like he's in that moment. He's got to feel the kind of mojo going in him. He's got to feel strong now. And for FireCake, on the other hand, that could actually have quite a harmful impact on his mindset, losing a game like that.
I mean, of course, you could quite easily say, going on to the next map, does he just play the similar style? He knows he's strong in the late game against FireCake here. But there were certainly moments where that could have completely swung the other way. There were certainly moments where FireCake could have easily kind of broke these defenses and just powered on to victory, I feel.
Absolutely. If we remember, there was that bottom base in the left-hand corner, which was untouched. I think maybe FireCake got a little bit too stuck and hit the middle base, hit the one to the side, and moving between that. And we saw it was doing really well for a time, but eventually MarineLorD got very used to it, set up a very nice tank spread in that area, and he began to start to deal with it better and better as time went on. And FireCake never really adjusted from that one technique of hit the 4th base, hit the 5th base. Maybe some counterattacks around the back, maybe a Mutalisk swap. There's definitely quite a few options. But this next game is going to be a bit of a different story. Coda, we've seen MarineLorD's very comfortable with mech on that, but we're going into Expedition Lost next. And that map's going to be a little bit harder for him to play against mech on.
Yeah, we've actually seen as well, like, some far more aggressive strategies coming out on maps like Expedition Lost. We've seen Zergs trying to, bust down the back rocks, trying to exploit that, going from left to right to left to right. Is this something that FireCake could, like, just, as much as he's been going into these kind of longer games, could he just flip the switch and just completely play against his image and do something pretty aggressive here?
The option's always there. However, as a Zerg player myself, I would say Expedition Lost is a map you normally feel quite confident on.
Okay.
MarineLorD here, though, maybe not bothering to veto it, even though it is a very typical Terran veto, because he is feeling confident against FireCake's style. We do see some pretty nice stats there from MarineLorD. Of course, quite a newcomer, not a wealth of games to choose from, but he is starting to really pick up his performances in this season.
Yeah, definitely. Well, being 1-1 here in this series so far, and seeing how game number 2 played out, FireCake just takes a few moments here to just compose himself after something like that, because he can't help but feel that he was in control. And as much as he's looking good here so far in WCS Season 2, he goes into this match as against somebody who he's had so many games against, who he has had some problems against as well, because we know in the European scene, from speaking to a lot of other pros, that MarineLorD is someone who is touted as one of the very best.
Absolutely, and I think FireCake himself, speaking of his mentality, we did just see the shot on him. It's a little bit difficult because he is a bit of an enigma. We say he's a bit of a bad boy. He doesn't really care too much about his reputation, but he has been known to struggle with mech, to feel it's very potentially overpowered since the Swarm host change. And he's had outbursts about that in the past, and to lose a game like that as a Zerg player, even if you feel mech's completely balanced, you could be a little bit tilted from that. So I am really wondering what's running through his head right now. I definitely think the right thing for him to be doing is, as you said, take a breath, reset, think about your plan for Expedition Lost. And he's probably quite confident knowing that Bio is much more favored here on Expedition Lost.
Yeah, as you can see here is the map. And at the moment, stats-wise here in WCS, It's one of the best of maps for Terrans.
I'm actually surprised we've even seen 12 games on this map for ZvT because Terran players just love to veto it. They really do struggle on it. One of the big factors here on this map, and what we want to be looking out for, is once Terran gets up to a third base, there's always a very good counter-attack path for Zerg to take.
All right, let's get into it then. Game at number 3 here between these two. What a great game, too. Absolutely brilliant here from both of them. As we have spawned down to the bottom left-hand corner, it is our blue Terran. It is MarineLorD representing Team Millennium and looking phenomenal. The control and persistence he had in that second game, great stuff. And then his opponent up to the top right-hand corner, it is our red Zerg. It is, of course, FireCake representing Punchline, one of the nemesises here in WCS Season 2, as it was in Season 1. And MarineLorD is definitely looking to topple him. If MarineLorD took a win against FireCake here, big smiles all around for him.
Absolutely. This group, we haven't spoken too much about this group, but you've got to remember that Polt is also in this group.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to be going into the losers match straight away. You really, I mean, even if you go into the winners match and you have to face Polt there, you'd rather do it there with an extra life on spare.
But that's the thing, is that MarineLorD actually has brilliant TVT. Like, really good TVT, to the point where he pushed 4GG to the brink, and obviously probably practices with him quite a bit. So there is the potential here for MarineLorD, if he is able to win this series, to cause quite the upset here.
Absolutely, and I think it's such an important moment for him. So I'm very curious what build he's going to do. We do see a command center first is about to drop for him. He's saving up those minerals. We'll be dropping that in just a moment. FireCake, on the other hand, going for that typical pool first opening, sending some overlords out to an odd position on the map there. Perhaps looking like he's preparing for any sort of proxy barracks shenanigans with those overlord positionings, trying to keep an eye on that, and now moving down to take that hatchery. So MarineLorD once again going for that very economic play. You know, he might just play that sort of Hellion Banshee opening he did in the first game, get some harassment damage done, and just go into that very strong bio play.
And this SCV is just going to move out now for a bit of scouting, kind of confirm, basically, what he probably already knows, knowing that there would be a spawning pool down before this hatchery. And then from there, he'll be totally fine behind this as well. So, yeah, this Overlord, he's on a bit of an excursion. I think it might be to do with the fact that he probably wants to move the first Overlord down to a more southern position to try and scout out, or is that not where he wants to position it? Does he just want to cover the whole northern flank of his opponent's base?
It's definitely an odd Overlord path, and every Zerg player has their own little tricks to it, what they're looking for. I do feel like he was making 100% sure there was no sneaky proxy barracks or anything like that, but it looks like he's just going to move them into position to be able to sacrifice into that main, probably one after the other. And we see one already starting to poke in, and the Zerglings also coming across the map to chase down that SCV.
Yeah, eventually kill him off. Good stuff there, being able to just deny, well, not too much. I don't think he really denied the potential scouting of what was going on. If we just look at the vision there, yeah, he pretty much saw everything. Saw that there was a lack of gas as well, or most importantly. So MarineLorD from here can play his own game.
Interesting, a lot of minerals stacking up for FireCake right now. Still no gas down, and a little bit of a gap in his production there. But he is just harassing now at this natural with these Zerglings. MarineLorD just going to wait for that second Marine to pop before he goes down to deal with that.
I mean, that kind of mineral bank up there, could that have been to do with him having some weird lack of lava? What was that?
There we go. So there is a third base going down now. So I was wondering if that was the option, but seeing no drone heading there, I was a little bit confused. But now going for a 5-minute third base, that is a very early third hatchery. And that's quite a nice reaction against the command center first opening. The Hellions are delayed, so you have a little bit more breathing room in the early stage.
Especially for FireCake, right? Because generally he's happy to sit around on 2 bases, chill out, you know, you're going to send some Hellions against me. All right, I'll make my Roach Warren, maybe a third base later. But that's not too typical here of FireCake doing this.
Absolutely. Delaying the Roach Warren a little bit to accommodate for the minerals going to that hatchery as well. He looks like he does want to play the same style, just with that faster third base. So it is nice seeing that little adjustment there. And it looks like MarineLorD is going to play that exact same opening from Varney Research, the game 1. Going for the command center first, going into the Hellions, now adding the starport with the tech lab for those Banshees. And it is going to come down once more to how can FireCake deal with this harassment? Is he going to take a lot of damage like in the first game? Or is he going to deflect it very easily like he did in that second game there on Coda?
Hellions are on the way out now. They are spotted by the Zergling pretty early. I think Overlord may have spotted them actually coming out of the base anyway, but regardless of that fact, Roach is in production, should be able to deflect this, building himself a small wall off at the natural as well. Does he know that the third base is down in place? He's going to check. There's no way he wouldn't check. I mean, so he's going to go up there, at least know that that is at the moment the case.
Just scouting everything out right now. Interestingly, building a couple of Widow Mines very early. And we haven't actually seen Banshee production start yet. So looks like he might swap into a Widow Mine drop. I am a little bit flummoxed by MarineLorD's play there. A little bit of a supply block. He's really trying to do something tricky here. Notice the Overlord came in, so he made it look like he was going for Banshees. And then as soon as the Overlord died, he swapped over, and he is just building Medivacs immediately. So we might see a little bit of just a poke with a single Medivac with 2 Widow Mines, and then just going straight into Bio. The double engineering bay already down.
I mean, what is a giveaway here for FireCake if he's able? So is it like, obviously there's 4 Hellions at the front. Is it like not seeing 6 Hellions encroach on the front? He's just cancelled the Spore Crawler, I think, and he's not making any others. So I think he may have read into it. What really triggered that? Is it the Hellion count? What's happened here?
I believe he actually swapped a little bit too early, as our observer's showing us.
Damn it.
He didn't wait for the Zerg vision to dissipate before he swapped that, and there was actually no Banshee queued up, so he could see that the Starport wasn't producing. So maybe a little bit of a transparent, tricky move from MarineLorD. He is now coming in, and FireCake is actually replacing those Spore Crawlers now just to be 100% safe. This Widowmine drop coming in, but it has been spotted. Has FireCake realized?
It may not have. I mean, there are still Spore Crawlers going down, so that will provide him the detection. The layer isn't finished yet, and this is actually going to deny mining for quite a while here. He needs to wait for this Spore Crawler to finish up. This Queen might actually die, and she will fall, so at least they can get back to mining here. But he can actually get out with the Widow Mines. Very good there by MarineLorD to make sure he's not sacrificed.
A very nice, annoying move there from MarineLorD, trying to distract FireCake. Notice what he's doing. He's keeping FireCake's vision back at home, and what we really need to pay attention to, we haven't talked about it yet, is MarineLorD's build. There is no third command center. After denying the scouting, he's building siege tanks. Yes, he's getting double upgrades, but he's going for a big 2-base marine tank timing. This is an all-in. He needs to do a lot of damage with this because he's not going for that third base. Oh, very nice shutdown with that Spore Crawler.
Oh, he gets himself a few kills as well. 7 drones go down to that. At the moment, he's actually got +1 range weapons on the way, so he's going to commit to a lot of Roaches here, but against almost pure Marine out of it with some of those siege tanks, he's finally now going to see the fact that all this production is here, but is it enough? I mean,
he might not even realize, though. He might think the third command center is already on the way.
True.
He doesn't have vision over there, so this is a very tricky position for FireCake. FireCake coming across the map with a Roach push clearly does not realize what he's going up against just yet, but these Roaches will see it now.
They don't have speed. They don't have speed, so all of these could easily be gunned down. He actually might sacrifice a lot of these. He's going to have to go for the fight himself. Gets us a few of the Marines at the front, but here come the reinforcements here from MarineLorD.
Oh, devastating. This is huge. All the Roaches going down for a handful of Marines. And this is absolutely massive. That had to be the crux of FireCake's defense. This has been a sneaky, tricky timing out of MarineLorD, and so far it is doing so well. He's on equal supply, but he is down 20 workers. Now that's actually not bad because he's hitting hard and fast with a bigger army supply, better upgrades, lots of medevacs, and siege tanks in the back.
Doesn't even have his Baneling nest finished yet, and if he's going to go up against these Marines, you're going to have a whole lot of Banelings to try and deal with this. Drops on into the main base now. Siege tanks from the low ground going to try and support this position as well. And these Roaches, there's such a difficult position for them to try and push in against.
Look at that, moving up the ramp into the Marines, but the siege tanks shelling from behind. Only 1 Marine goes down, and so much Zerg is going down. Zergling speed isn't even finished. This has completely caught FireCake with his pants down.
Look at it. They're just great positioning from the siege tanks. They're supporting this position so well. Extra units get lifted up here. MarineLorD is running away with this game at the moment as the Roach is trying to funnel down this small choke point, but they really have no units available to them all. He's even started burrow here at this location, trying to scramble for any kind of answer that he can find, but at the moment, there is no answer. There's units from the left-hand side trying to get in there and reinforce, but he's lost everything. Here comes the Mule as MarineLorD feels that he's been able to do enough to break him. Drones come off the line as well. 20 evaporate under the pressure of all of this. He's done so much here, Pig.
Oh, that is massive. This is game-ending damage. What a clever timing out of MarineLorD, being very sneaky, knowing that FireCake's not known for reacting and scouting too much, and coming in here, dancing his Marines into the face of FireCake. Obviously dropping those mules before, getting in, and this is a grudge match, and MarineLorD coming out on top of it. FireCake has got to be disappointed as he sees all of his units falling apart. Roach is coming in from the back, picking off a couple of Marines, but he is forced out.
Well done there by MarineLorD. 2-1, even wagging his finger at the camera there at the very end. And he knows that, you know, to be able to prove himself here on WCS in one of the main stages is very, very important. And for him to take out someone like FireCake at the beginning here of his propulsion forwards here in Group B is a big thing for him because of that rivalry that they do have.
I mean, it's such a dominating final game there, and after game 2, where he was inches from defeat for such a long period of that game, it's got to really lift him up, give him some confidence now. Even if he does end up facing Polt in the winners match, of course, it'll be the winner of Polt and Harston. Yeah. He's going to be going in there with a lot of confidence. And FireCake, on the other hand, has got to be a little bit upset over that. You know, game 1 looking so commanding from behind and just crushing the engagements. Game 2 there, looking so close. But he's going to have to recover in the losers match, and he still has a shot at making it out.
Really well done there by MarineLorD. Really, really well done. For FireCake, obviously going down to the lower bracket, he's actually no stranger to those kinds of positions. He has been there before, and he has recovered before. So
absolutely.
There's definitely potential, but it's a very tough group for him. I mean, if you look at the fact that we have MarineLorD there, Polt there, obviously, and then Harston, who is notoriously good, actually, at PvZ, it's quite a tough group.
Absolutely. You want to win that first match so you can go through out of that with the extra life. Going up against either Harston or Polt, it's a very tricky match for both players. It's going to be a really, really tough road from there, but I've really got to commend MarineLorD.
He's one of them.
MarineLorD on his beautiful choice of build in that final game.
Yeah.
It's something you almost never see, and especially the way he used the siege tanks across that cliff, you could see it was very well thought out, and it was the perfect kryptonite for FireCake's playstyle.
Great stuff. Really well played there by MarineLorD, who advances on to the winners game. We're going to go to a short break, guys, and when we're back, there's going to be more StarCraft action coming here from Stage B of the World Championship Series.